Hello and welcome to the Pots and Trowels podcast with me, Martin, Sean and Jill.
Hi there. Hi.
In this episode, we're going down to Taylor's of Holbeach in South Lincolnshire to look at their amazing daffodil bulb fields, but also to find out how they get their amazing flowers in flower for the Chelsea Flower Show.
And we just want to say thank you to our sponsors, Plant Grow, who are based in Norfolk, and they produce a range of sustainably produced mulches, growing compost and liquid feeds, which are all made as a byproduct from making green electricity.
Anaerobic digester stuff, isn't it? Yes. Coming up later, we've got some exciting Minty fresh news hot off the press. More about that later.
I like what you did there.
Oh, yeah. And also we're going to find out a little bit about taking care of your rhubarb. But first, I think we should go meet Charlotte at Taylor's.
Charlotte, thank you for inviting us down to Taylor's Bulbs today. We're here in South Lincolnshire, and Taylor's are synonymous with bulbs. If you go to garden centres, you see Taylor's bulbs. But the business goes back a long way. So can you just give us a little bit of the history of how Taylor's all started?
Yes, of course. So Taylor's is a fourth generation family business, and it all began in 1919 when Otto Taylor was unable to return to his job in the war, and he actually moved to a new settlement with 4 acres of land with his wife and had 2 sons, Stanley and Percy. He soon realised that such a small settlement maybe wouldn't provide a big enough living for the family, and that's where the business started to grow. In 1968, the family then owned 120 hectares of prime Lincolnshire silt land, and the business has grown then in 2009. Adam and Sam Taylor, who are the directors now, the business now has 750 hectares. So it's grown a lot since 1919.
Huge, hasn't it? Yes, and bulbs and farming is what you do, because with the growing the bulbs, you have to rotate them, don't you? So you need other crops that you can grow in the years when you've not got bulbs on it.
Yes, so we have 1,850 acres here on the farm, and 400 of those are daffodils, and then we make everything else up with wheat. We grow some vegetables as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely driving through this part of Lincolnshire that at this time of the year, spring, there are just so many daffodils. I would think Taylor's are probably one of the biggest growers of daffodils in the UK, aren't they?
Yeah, we're definitely one of the largest growers, largest suppliers into garden centres and retail outlets across the UK and Ireland.
And right, okay. So tell us about your job. What do you do within the company? What is your position?
Yes, so my title is the direct sales manager, and I look after the mail order side of the business. So that comes under the name of bulbstock.co.uk, and we sell the specialist daffodil collection that we've been looking at today.
Yeah, and that is a special collection that's been in the business for a number of years, hasn't it?
Yes, so we acquired the collection many, many years ago. The collection is over 30, 40 years old. Obviously from its 31 gold medal awards at Chelsea, it's still going strong.
And do you know how, that's the special collection which you use for Chelsea and the Harrogate Flower Show, the cut flower displays, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Do you know how many varieties of daffodils you grow at Taylor's, roughly? It's got to be hundreds, hasn't it?
Yeah, so we do about 70 main stock varieties that you would see within garden centres, and then adding to the collection, it's about 300 to 350 varieties in total.
Plus lots of other bulbs that you sell to the retail market and garden centres. If it's a bulb, you sell it basically.
Absolutely. We cover both seasons, the autumn and the spring. So anything from daffodils, tulips and alliums to dahlias, lilies, begonias.
Okay. So before we talk about Chelsea, I want to know about your garden then, because, obviously working somewhere like this, I would imagine you've got lots of daffodils in your garden, haven't you?
Well, yes, I started a couple of years ago just introducing a few into my garden, and they've actually started blooming this week at home. So I'm very excited to see the results of my labour.
Because, they are one of those things, you plant them and they generally come back year after year, aren't they? Have you got any tips that you would give any of our listeners? It's not the time to plant them, but any just basic tips for how to get started with daffodils?
Yeah, so the daffodil is very, very hardy. You can't really do much wrong in order to get them to grow in your garden. So we usually say 2 to 3 times the depth of the bulb. make sure they're planted the correct way, which always helps, root facing down, and just put them in there and leave them. And after 3 or 4 years, if they're starting to get a little bit crowded, it's good to sort of dig them up, split them up and divide them. But they're definitely an investment.
Yeah, they are. And once they've been in the garden for a few years, you just get these wonderful drifts and clumps of them. But you're selling daffodils and producing hundreds of acres of daffodils every year that you lift and then sell. So how does that process work? I mean, do you start with little baby daffodils that grow into big daffodils?
Yeah, so daffodils naturalise, so they produce daughter bulbs. So we grow our daffodils on a 2-year cycle. So we plant them the first year and then we leave them in the ground to multiply. And then we will lift them from the following June. They're processed and then they're out into garden centres for the autumn, ready for planting.
So the fields we've just had a walk through where these rows and rows, and they're really thick in the row. You let them die down. Are they likely to be lifted this year, some of those?
Yeah, so when we were studying the variety Ice Follies earlier, those are second years, so they're in their second year of flowering. Once they've died back naturally, we get the go-ahead and we start lifting them, and they're the bulbs that you will see in the garden centres this year.
Right, okay. And then the smaller, when you lift them, you grade them out, the big ones are sold and the little ones go back for 2 years' time. So it's an ongoing cycle, isn't it, essentially?
Absolutely, and those smaller bulbs will grow to be the larger bulbs, then they will produce daughter bulbs and the process continues.
Fascinating. Well, what we'll do is take a little break and then we're going to come back and find out all about the Chelsea Flower Show and forcing them into flower for the end of May.
Well, coming up, there's going to be a daffodil question, actually, which is very in keeping.
Good timing.
And there's going to be Martin's got some advice about growing mint in pots, which links us to a very exciting bit of news that Jill is involved in an RHS trial to do with mint.
Yes.
More on that later. But anyway, we're Taylor's settlement. What's a settlement? What did they mean?
Right, yes. Well, Charlotte was telling us a bit about the history of the business, how it all started with the first Mr. Taylor, Otto Taylor. He was in the First World War. When he came out the war, I think he'd had an injury or something. He couldn't go back to his normal job. And the settlement she refers to is what happened is after the First World War, the government, for ex-servicemen to get them into work, they set up this organisation called the LSA, the Land Settlement Association. So I'm assuming that's what she's referring to. And they used to be dotted all around the country. There were quite a few in Derbyshire, Lincolnshire, Yorkshire,
so
Nottinghamshire.
Parcel of land for you to do
exactly.
something with.
And they bought pieces of land, large pieces of land, divided it up into small, almost like small holdings, and then they would build a little house on it. So you'd get a house and maybe 5 or 10 acres of land. And lots of them grew as market gardeners, salads and vegetable crops. There's quite a few in the Nottinghamshire area that I used to visit many, many years ago that were mushroom growers. So, you know, because you can grow a lot of mushrooms on an acre of ground. And so it would have been that they got. And I think he realised you can't farm it. Traditionally, it's not big enough. So that's why he started growing flowers and bulbs. And the rest is history, because they've now got a huge amount of land.
I think Charlotte said that in the collection there are 350 varieties. You wouldn't think that a basic daffodil could have that many different varieties, would you really?
I mean, we've got some in front of us here. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see that. But yeah, I mean, a daffodil's a daffodil, but they do come in lots of different types.
Different colours.
Sometimes the trumpets are different colour to the petals and all sorts.
And they have all different divisions within them, which is the size of them and the length of the trumpet and the petals. So yeah, it's quite complicated judging daffodils at a specialist show. I mean, we've got a friend of ours called Ray Beckwith who does that. There will be thousands of types of daffodil. They just happen to have 350. In fact, we've got a very special daffodil, haven't we?
We have.
And we'll put a picture onto the video, which is named after my mum, called Joyce Fish. And it was bred by a friend of ours. He's a breeder of daffodils, and he got this lovely one, and he very kindly named it after my mum. And we've got some. It's a late flowering one. It's still in flower at the moment. So we'll
And
take a photograph.
at the moment it's growing in pots, isn't it? Because you want to give some bulbs to other members of the family, which is a lovely idea. So Charlotte was talking about how they produce daughter bulbs.
Yes.
So that's presumably what you're doing.
I'm going to do that. Well, we had to dig the clump up when we moved to Lincolnshire, and it's still in a pot. So when the flowers have finished and the foliage has died down, I'm going to take it out the pot, shake all the compost off, and then split the main bulb and the daughter bulbs, which are the small ones that grow at the side. And I'm actually going to plant a row in the garden, in the veg plot. So I will do exactly what they do and then leave them for 2 years to bulk up, and then we can lift them, and then the family members can all have a few to plant in their garden to keep it going. Exactly, yeah. But it is a lovely one. It's got a very pale yellow trumpet and a cream petals. So yes, it is a pretty one.
Yeah, it is.
Good stuff, good stuff. Well, should we have this daffodil question then?
Oh, yes.
Yes, well, it was Margaret from Nottingham, and she's got a problem with her daffodils. They are growing, but she said a lot of them are blind.
Okay,
What's
right.
the problem? What can you just explain why that's happening, and what can she do about it in
And
the
what
future?
blind means.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Well, I can tell you a funny story about that. A blind daffodil is, or any bulb really, if when we refer to it as being blind, it means it produces leaf but no flower. And the reason that sometimes they don't produce a flower is it can be several reasons. One is it can be an immature bulb. So if you buy very small bulbs that aren't big enough to flower, because they have to get to a certain age, hence the reason tailors grow them for 2 years to get bigger. If you've bought a very small bulb, they often take another couple of years when you've planted them in the garden to get to the size of flowering. It can also be if you are always cutting them down, so as soon as they've flowered you cut the leaves down, that weakens them, because what has to happen is, Jill, I'm looking at you here, what happens is, and again Taylor's reiterated this, once they've flowered you've got to leave them growing, so all the goodness in the leaves dies back completely into the bulb.
I know, but they look messy, don't they?
I know, but you've got to do it, Jill.
I've not taken the lawnmower over ours at all.
No. And again, if you do that on a regular basis, it weakens the bulb so it just can't produce a flower bud. And the other reason, if it's in a very poor, very free draining soil, and again they're not getting enough water and nutrients, or they can get a pest called narcissus fly that gets down into the bulb and damages the little embryo flower as it develops. So it can be several, but I think what I would do is I would probably dig that clump up when the leaves have died down and have a look at it. And if it's very congested, just divide the bulbs, replant them, add in a bit of fresh soil or compost or a bit of fertiliser, and hopefully they'll be better for you the following year.
Okay.
Good stuff. Well, if you've got a question like Margaret from Nottingham, drop us an email, info@potsandtrowels.com, or just leave a comment on the video. So if you're watching this on YouTube, then you can leave a comment under here and we'll hopefully pick it up and drop us that message and we'll hopefully get the answer to you.
Exactly. So shall we go back to Charlotte and find out how they get their daffodils ready for the Chelsea Flower Show?
Yeah.
We're sitting with you here, Charlotte. It's spring and the daffodils are looking absolutely great out in the fields. And very soon you'll have your first exhibit of the season at the Harrogate Spring Flower Show. So you'll be able to pick those out the field. But the Chelsea Flower Show is always the third week in May, and daffodils have finished then. So how do you get round that problem of having prize-winning, perfect blooms and lots of them in flower for Chelsea Week?
Well, I couldn't give you all my secrets. No, so the process for Chelsea starts at the end of our lifting the previous year. So around sort of August, September time, we're pulling out which varieties we're going to show on the show bench for the following year. We only pick the ones that we know everybody would love to see, and also the ones that are going to produce really excellent show standard flowers. We then keep those bulbs up until Christmas, and just after Christmas when we come back, the first job for the team is to start planting. And we plant them in trays, 150 bulbs to a tray, and we usually plant about 100 varieties for the show. So in total, you're looking at 29,000 bulbs that are planted just for Chelsea Flower Show. Once they're planted, we pop them into the glass house and we let them root and shoot to get them started and on their growing journey. But then the clever part happens where we put them into the cold store, we trick them into thinking that it's winter, and that's where we hold them back. As me and the team then start getting ready for Harrogate. We fly off to Harrogate show, and that's when the Chelsea bulbs actually come out of the cold store, thinking that it's spring starting, and they are putting it out into the glass house, and that's when they start to think, right, spring's here, let's get going. And we usually have the first flowers for Chelsea to crop within 10 days of those being put out.
So once they start to crop, so these are still in the crates, you will then cut them. But how do you keep them fresh? Because obviously at May, they're going to go over very quickly.
Absolutely. So we usually crop flowers 2 to 3 weeks in the lead up to Chelsea Flower Show. So me and the team will go in as those flowers look absolutely perfect. We cut them and they're then put into the cold store again. And that's where they will stay and be stored in the dark at a certain temperature, which I couldn't possibly tell you.
But quite cool, I would imagine.
Yes, a very cold temperature to preserve that flower ready for when we come to stage them.
So once they've been picked and they're in the cold store, presumably they'll, obviously 2 to 3 weeks, they'll still stay in good condition. They don't deteriorate.
I mean, some varieties do. It's usually the ones that are cropped first that maybe don't make it. But generally, we get a good amount of varieties coming. But to give you some figures, we normally show up to 40 to 45 varieties on the show bench at Chelsea, bearing in mind we've planted 100 varieties on average. And the amount of flowers needed for those bowls, so 29 perfect flowers per bowl, it's 1,100 flowers from 29,000 bulbs. So it's quite the process.
Yeah, that is a big achievement, a lot of endeavour, isn't it, to produce those flowers. And when you are picking them before they go in the cold store, I'm fascinated by this because I've had the pleasure of judging the exhibit at Chelsea on 2 occasions, and I've often wondered exactly how it happens. When you pick them, are they fully open, or are they at the stage that we would buy a bunch of flowers from a supermarket where they're sort of just showing a bit of colour but they're still in the bud form? What stage do you pick them at?
So we actually pick them when they're fully open and perfect as to how they, have been registered. So there's no waiting for them to come out or anything. That flower is exactly as it is when it's cropped as to what it looks like at Chelsea.
And when you're doing the arranging at Chelsea, so judging is on the Monday, you'll be staging on the Sunday late because you want them to look really fresh for the judges on Sunday morning. Presumably some don't make it. Some, if they've got a blemish on, do they get thrown in a box away?
Absolutely. So the whole way through the process, from when we're picking out the bulbs right through to staging those flowers in the bowls, we're constantly quality controlling them. So if one of the flowers has got a squashed petal or a little mark or a blemish, or it's maybe got bruised in transit, that flower will definitely not make the show.
There must be an awful lot of pressure then on you and your team because, you've already got 31 golds and you obviously are striving for perfection. So you've got to just make sure that they're all absolutely perfect. Do you go in early and check them before judging?
Yeah, so me and the team stage everything on the Sunday. They're even sort of created, the bowls are created, we put them back into the van to keep them as fresh as we possibly can and cool. But then a few of us on Monday morning before judging go in really early, 5 o'clock start, and we go in because naturally daffodils will move with the light. So we go in Monday morning and we've got little daffodil faces facing all sorts of different directions, and they need to be facing the perfect way ready for judging. So there's a lot of titivating that goes on probably 1 or 2 hours before it's time to get out because the judges have arrived.
Yes, and we all get in there at 7 o'clock on the Monday morning, so it has to be finished by then. I bet the public love it, don't they? Because to see daffodils in flower at the end of May is an amazing sight. I bet it's so many lovely comments.
We do, and I think that's one of my favourite parts about doing the shows, when people's reactions, it makes all of the hard work worthwhile, because people think, how on earth did you do that? And it's wonderful. Every year you get somebody new that you can educate and show how you've done it, and tell them a few of the secrets.
And I would hope it inspires people to plant daffodils into their garden as well.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we obviously have people come over who have never, ever grown a daffodil in their life, and they start that journey with us. And, I'm very proud of that.
And one final thing, on the Monday after judging, in the afternoon, we get the royal visit and the royal party have a wander around. Do they ever wander by and have a look at the daffs?
Yes, and we do supply some of the royal gardens as well. So it's always an honour to be present and be there, especially with the King hopefully visiting this year.
Hopefully. So, yes, well, we'll obviously let listeners know how you got on at Chelsea. Before that, you've got Harrogate, so we'll have a look at that as well. So all the best for this season, and thank you for letting us have a look around the fields. It's amazing. So we need to start putting a list together, I think, Mrs. Fish, of what we're going to plant in our new garden.
Thank you very much.
It was amazing to see the crates of daffodils in the cold store. And if you want to see that, then you can watch our video this week where we actually went to Taylor's and sort of went inside the cold store. Not everybody's allowed to do that.
If you're watching this on YouTube, you might be seeing that already over the top of what Jill's saying. Because I'm hoping that if I get my head, in the right place, I'll have edited that over the top of this. And also a link to that video.
Okay.
And it is amazing to see that the fields and fields of daffodils. I mean, we were there a couple of weeks ago, so they were a lot of them were at their perfect stage.
Yeah, but some of them were only just...
Some were in buds of the special
buds.
collection. It was that special collection that intrigued me.
And that's what goes to Chelsea, isn't it?
And to the Harrogate show as well, which is next week, of course. Isn't it? The Harrogate Spring Flower Show is the 24th to the 27th of April on the Great Yorkshire Showground in Harrogate. And that's where they will be with their first exhibit of the season. So if you want to get a taste of what it looks like, go and see Charlotte and the team at Harrogate.
Kind of Chelsea preview.
Well, yeah, it is, isn't it? Yes. And only half the team are there because the others are getting the crates out of the cold store to put them in the greenhouse to get those forced for Chelsea, which is, it's another, 5-6 weeks away to Chelsea. So, yes, it is amazing how they do it.
It's a science, though, isn't it, really? It's all timed perfectly, and they've obviously got the perfect temperature for the cold store for each stage. So there's the stacks of crates at that initial stage. But then when they cut the flower, because I always think you thought that the daffodils would be in bud when they picked them, ready for the Chelsea show. But they're not. They're in full flower and put into the cold store in buckets of water. So you'd think they wouldn't last that long.
So the cold store kind of pauses them, does it?
Just stops them in time, really. So
not too cold to damage them, but cold enough to make them not do anything. So it's obviously trial and error over the years, but they perfect it. And of course Charlotte wouldn't give us the exact temperatures and the exact timings.
No. Is that like a special sauce?
I think it is. I think to get that I'd have to buy a couple of gin and tonics probably, but
maybe 1 degree could make
the difference.
All the difference, couldn't it, between a gold medal at Chelsea?
And they obviously grow an awful lot, don't they, as well? Was it 29,000?
The figures, I think
something?
she said there were 29,000 bulbs for Chelsea.
Just for Chelsea?
Just for Chelsea. And they end up with 29 per bowl in the arrangement. So there are 1,100 blooms.
So there's a lot that don't make
1,100 blooms out of those 29,000 bulbs.
Wow.
That's amazing, isn't it?
But presumably the ones they don't use, the bulbs can then be replanted back into the ground again. So I'm assuming they're not wasted. They go back in and grow on for another couple of years because they have these special collections growing at different stages in different areas of the farm. So, they'll already be planted for next year. So clever stuff. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing them.
I wonder if the staff at Taylor's are allowed to just go out and pick daffodils to take home.
This is completely unrelated, but because you keep talking about Taylor's and Harrogate, I keep thinking of the tea company.
Oh, right, okay.
So there is a company called Taylor's of Harrogate who
true.
do tea, and I'm assuming it's definitely a different organisation.
Oh, completely different. Completely
but that's
different.
what keeps going through my head.
These are Taylor's of Holbeach in, I think they are officially O.A. Taylor and Sons, aren't they? I think that's what they are. But they're Holbeach in South Lincolnshire. And if ever you're going through that part of the county there on the way to Norfolk or wherever, you'll see at this time of the year all those acres and acres and acres of daffodils, which look amazing.
Yeah, it was a really interesting visit.
Good stuff. Just a reminder, if you've got a question for Martin Miller team, drop us an email, info@potsandtrowels.com, or go to the website, potsandtrowels.com. spell it as it sounds.
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
But yeah, we must have some stuff that we need to be doing in the garden. I can't wait to hear this mint information.
Well, we'll start off with the mint then. Yes. Well, I'm going to put some mint in pots. We've always grown mint in pots because if you plant it in the garden, it runs all over the place. And some of our mint has sort of past its best. I did divide some, but I'm in the process of buying a few new mints. And there's so many wonderful mints. You get peppermint, spearmint, chocolate mint, apple mint, pineapple mint, you name it, there's a mint for everything. So I'm just going to buy a few new plants, put them in nice terracotta pots. Mints, we always think herbs like lots of heat. Mint is better in the shade, so it's a cooler growing, shady plant.
Cool mint,
exactly. There's another one. Write that one down quickly. So yes, if you've got a shady wall or part of the garden that doesn't get much sun, mint is ideal. It grows much better in the shade. Whereas if you're growing your rosemary, thymes, lavenders, they need the sun. So I'm going to be potting those up. Ideal now, because then you'll get lovely fresh garden mint all the way through the summer months. And the more you pick it, obviously the more it grows. And it is delicious, isn't it, mint?
Love it.
But the exciting news is Jill, Sean, she's a bit shy. She doesn't want me to mention this.
Well, I don't think it's
very
to
important.
any merit.
She's been chosen to be on a judging panel for the RHS mint trial, which is taking place at RHS Bridgewater up there in near Salford this year. So she'll have to go and visit the mints, smell them, taste them, with a panel of experts, of which she's one.
But that's the tricky bit, isn't it? I feel a bit of imposter syndrome, really, because I'm not a mint expert, really. I mean, we grow it at home, and I enjoy cooking with it.
You've been chosen for your culinary.
I think I am
an excellent palate.
I am the ordinary home cook type person. I think that's why I've been asked to do it.
Mary Berry wasn't available,
no,
so
exactly.
you're doing it.
I think there is a Michelin star chef and all sorts of experts, and our friend Jonathan Mosley's going because they want to look at mint in lots of different ways. So Jonathan's going to be looking at it as something that you can use in an arrangement as well. So, it's that sort of side of it. And then obviously the culinary, the smell, and then ornamental value. They have to look at how it grows, the habit, and sort of all those kinds of things. So it will be interesting. I think we do 4 visits over the mint growing season. Yeah. And we sort of look at them all. There are 50 different mints that we have to look at.
Wow.
So it could be quite a long day. I don't know how we're going to taste and
imagining you with
sniff.
a clipboard going
exactly.
round. Giving them scores.
Maybe I should hold off buying mints and potting them now. Maybe you could just bring some cuttings home.
Yes, I need to go and test this in situ. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm excited about doing it. I'm a little bit sort of nervous about doing it as well because I haven't done anything like that before. But
they could then give you a Michelin star afterwards.
Very good. That'd be good fun, I think.
And on that note,
Oh, that sounds exciting.
I'll keep you posted. I'll let you know how it goes.
What will be the upshot of that? Will that mean that then they will choose some to kind of
I'm guessing those plants will then be
I think they might go forward
by the RHS.
Well, they may be going forward for an AGM, an Award of Garden Merit.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. I suspect they are. If they're going through an RHS trial, very often at the end of it, some of them will be awarded an AGM if they're really good doers.
Good stuff.
Yes.
Good stuff. Wow.
Sorry, I was tapping my cup there. That's
not
not because I want another cup.
That's
That's not because I want another one. Right, something else you can be doing. Rhubarb. We've had our rhubarb. The outdoor rhubarb is growing nicely now, which will be ready for pulling very soon. But we also covered over a clump of rhubarb back at the end of January with a forcing pot, which we've been eating, and it's been absolutely delicious. As soon as you've finished with your rhubarb, as soon as if you've got the forced rhubarb that's been excluded from light, as soon as excuse me, I've got a little tickly throat. As soon as you finish pulling those lovely pink tender sticks, then you need to take that pot away, give it lots of light, but also because it's used a lot of energy to produce that forced rhubarb, you've got to give it a little bit of TLC. So a bit of fertiliser and water because you want to promote ordinary green leaf growth on it. Don't pull any more off it for a while. Let it recover, build up its strength, so that next year it will be fantastic again. So, don't think when you finish pulling it, that's it for the season. Give it a bit of love.
Look after it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
when you say for a bit, you mean until next season?
Well, you could probably still pull a few leaves off it later on in a couple of months, but initially you need it to build up a
Let
bit
it
of
gather
strength.
its strength.
But this is why you need 2 clumps of rhubarb, isn't it?
Ideally 3. Then you can
so
do
that
them
you can be
in
picking
order.
ordinary rhubarb.
Exactly. And finally, I know lots of people nowadays buy these little plugs from garden centres for bedding plants and basket plants for the patios and outdoor summer containers. It's a great way to do it because you can buy the plug plants, pot them up and grow them on for 6 weeks or so, and then make up your lovely containers. If you're doing that, just bear in mind it is still April, because I've known people think, oh, we'll put them outside. Most of these aren't frost hardy and they will be damaged. So by all means grow them, keep them somewhere frost free, put them outside in the daytime if it's a lovely day, but bring them back in at night and keep them growing for a few more weeks at least before you start to put them out in their permanent containers. Otherwise, you might wake up one morning and be very disappointed when we've had a frost and they've all been damaged. So it's keep them growing. It's still spring, not summer yet.
Good stuff. Well, I think that's probably about all we have time for this week.
It is, isn't it? Yes, I need to go and feed me rhubarb.
Enough rhubarb.
Yes.
It's fed you. No, you need
exactly.
to
I need to. Exactly. Yes, you've got to give back. So we'll be back next week, though. So we'll see you then.
See you then. Bye.
Watch the videos on YouTube or Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter or X, and subscribe to the podcast and never miss a thing. For more information, go to potsandtrowels.com.